Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Selden, president of the Montessori Foundation, which, as it says on the screen, has been helping independent and public schools thrive since 1992. While our name is Montessori, we speak non-Montessori too, although you'll always find the Montessori reference in the things that we do. Please understand as we go through it, if we talk about something as Montessori specific and you don't run a Montessori school, it all applies. Um, I will try to remember to keep showing how you would adapt something we might do in a Montessori school to a faith-based school or an independent school that is not Montessori or any school at all from Reggio Emilia, Waldorf, you name it. So before we get started, let me introduce my co-host, Clint Lausch, who runs a wonderful independent school marketing agency called Ames.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yep, I'm founder of AIMS, which stands for Admissions Inquiry Marketing Software. So, we have an all-in-one software platform for your handle your marketing and admissions, and we recently partnered with Montessori Compass to have a full suite that even includes the classroom management aspect. And yes, we also have layered in done for you marketing services from advertising and search engine optimization and full website design that layers on top of our software. So it provides a really great all-in-one experience and doing it at about a fraction of the cost of really any other agency or software out there. So that's what we're up to, and I'm excited for today's session because this is kind of at the heart of even why we created the software, which is help schools fill more seats and how we're
Thank
going to do it. So it's exciting.
you. So I love the word playbook. I mean, it can mean so many things to different people. I'm going to suggest to you that the handout that you're going to get with the link to the recording is even more valuable than what we're going to talk about today, because there's so much to share. And I think the written information will give you kind of the checklist and more specific examples of things you can do. Today could be thought of as guerrilla marketing, not just basic marketing. Should you ever need help, the Montessori Foundation has been working with independent schools on a wide range of areas, from heads of school searches to strategic planning to preparing for accreditation to dealing with crises. You name it, we do it. Board development, professional development. But I specifically love that our group works with schools to help clarify their marketing plan, their messaging, interviewing parents, trying to understand not only why people come, but why parents stay and why parents leave, and essentially help you to improve your ability to tell your story in a way that your parents come to really appreciate and love who you are, why you are different, whether you're Montessori or Reggio Emilia or Waldorf or independent or parochial, it doesn't matter. We're all offering something unique. We're all offering something that these parents could get for free if they wanted to go to the public schools. And of course, 9 out of 10 do. We're interested in the 10% of families that choose to come to independent schools for one reason or another. So I always start with the idea that nobody has to send a child to one of our schools. If they do it, they're looking for something. We need to be clear about who we are, what are we offering, and why would someone come to us instead of the easy route of going to the neighborhood school. So today's topic is essentially creative ways to fill empty space seats, and that includes right now. By the way, today's workshop came because one of the many schools we're working with is struggling with what we call 11th hour marketing. They still have unsold seats. They're struggling to figure out what does it take. They're working with Clint and Ames, and so far nothing worked really well. So I sat down with the head of school. We did a long deep dive. We came up with some of the ideas that you're going to see in this presentation today, and the full report is in what you're going to get as the handout. Again, please raise your hand, unmute, jump in. This is meant to be a conversation and not a lecture. And we'd love to hear your stories and your questions. So to get started, today, all independent schools, whether you're a preschool, whether you're a high school, even universities, are facing challenges. We have a declining birth rate in the United States. It used to be at 2.1 per couple, 2.1 children. Now it's fallen down to 1.6, and it appears to be continuing to fall. One might suspect that that's one of the reasons why the present administration is trying to restrict birth control and abortion. I think that's short-sighted. It has nothing to do with politics. It just, the bottom line is people are choosing not to have children. We're also seeing families moving out of communities where they feel it's too expensive to raise kids, it's too, shall we say, unfriendly to raise kids. I mean, major cities like Manhattan and Brooklyn, it's easier in the suburbs, it's easier in the country. It doesn't mean there aren't children, it just means that compared to 10 years ago, there's fewer children than there were before. And you may be seeing it. Public schools around America are reporting declining enrollment rates in the early childhood years, kindergarten, pre-K, and elementary. And we're definitely hearing from schools all over America that are beginning to see a declining number of applications and declining enrollment in these numbers. There are also free public preschools and TK, transitional kindergarten programs, that weren't so common a few years ago. For example, in the state of California, in another year, it won't just be limited, it'll be universal. Anyone who wants to will be able to go to a publicly funded public school, kindergarten, full day, and TK. In other states like New Mexico, and you may have seen the article in a number of the major news outlets or in our newsletter about New Mexico's free childcare subsidy, which, on the other hand, does not send children necessarily to the local public schools. It provides parents with vouchers to go to private schools. And that can have the opposite effect, where it may increase the number of families choosing to go to schools like ours. We also have in the states like Florida major programs, and we're seeing this in Texas, we're starting to see this in places like Tennessee, where there are subsidies, again, facilitating families, regardless of their economic means, to be able to enroll their children in K through 12th grade programs. We are also, at the same time, again, there's forces working to reduce our enrollment. There are forces that may help our enrollment in the micro climate that we happen to be operating, our micro economy. Uh, there are more magnet schools, more charter schools, more micro schools, these really tiny schools of 10, 15, 20, 30 children out there that are competing for market share. And then families are, their expectations are shifting, in part because of the pandemic, in part because of anxiety about what's happening in our country. And that can be liberal or conservative or anything in between. It can also be that families are just more challenging than they used to be because, they expect more and they tend to be in our face more quickly. Again, a lot of people are saying our teachers are feeling stressed, our families are not acting the way they used to. So this gives us an opportunity. Uh, One is we say, don't panic. Instead, this is a time to market with intentionality, to get serious about it. You cannot afford any longer to assume that the enrollment trends will be what they were before. Chance favors the prepared mind. Marketing, paid marketing, unpaid volunteer time, guerrilla marketing are more essential than ever before. Secondly, you have to show families your difference. Now, I say on the slide the Montessori difference, but I don't care if it's a parochial school or a country day school or an outdoor forest school. You've got to look at your school's unique selling points and very clearly deliver that message in a way that parents cannot miss it. Same time, parents are being bombarded with ads and messages. They're getting their information typically from who knows how many sources, but according to what I'm reading, The average American is getting 5,000 marketing messages a day from Instagram, from Facebook, from the newspaper, from their email, from text messages, from radio, TV, you name it. They are being bombarded with information.
And
We,
Tim, can I just say that used to be, there's a comparison, that used to be 5,000 a week prior to social media. Um, Now it's 5,000 a day versus 5,000 a week. So it's pretty incredible.
yeah, and people, by the way, are turning off. So they're more resistant to hearing anything, which means unless they're aggressively in the market looking for what you're selling, getting their attention requires more ingenuity, more effort, more repetitions of messaging than ever before. Don't rely on word of mouth, which isn't to say that word of mouth isn't good. It's very good. A parent who says, I love, this school. Margot, your school gets parents who say, I love that school, right? This is a good thing. And we want to work that because it's more believable than something we say. On the other hand, we can't rely on that alone. So we have to be visible and we have to be approachable. One of my other recommendations to schools today is you cannot afford to have an answering machine. Don't use voicemail. I mean, use it at night, use it on weekends, but parents don't like it. They want, this is a service that we're providing. They want a human being answering the phone, sitting there at the reception desk. They want that phone answered within 3 rings. They want to speak to people when they want to speak to people. It's just incredibly important to not wait to get back to people. By the way, one of the ways I met Clint was I was running a school in Florida. We had no marketing going on because the head of school before I was there really was confident that this school had a long waiting list and we were in great shape. And she was right. And then it wasn't true anymore. And all of a sudden, we had to work hard. And I found that what Clint was offering, which I've seen before, I've used Infusionsoft, I've used HubSpot. As a consultant, I've worked with schools that do NIDO marketing and school success and all kinds of companies out there that serve as ad agencies for independent schools, Montessori and otherwise. And what I found in Clint is he did what they do, but he did it with heart, he did it with intentionality, and he did it much more affordably than the others. And that's what I really appreciate and why Clint is sharing this screen with me today. Um, Lastly, again, focus on your strengths. Don't focus on what you don't have compared to your competition. You may not have an indoor swimming pool. You may not be a school with 1,500 kids. You may not be, a 100-acre campus, whatever it is. You may not have a hot lunch program. Focus on what makes you special, whether you're a wildflower school operating out of a storefront, or whether you're a one-room schoolhouse in a church basement, or whether you're an old established parochial school. Every one of us has a unique series of things that would lead someone to love us for who we are. We have to show families, in this case, it says the Montessori difference, substitute for Montessori what makes you different, the Waldorf difference, the Reggio Emilio difference, the Catholic school difference. So, among other things, you've got to be on social media and you want to create and post 30-second videos. Now, you can also have 3-minute videos and 3-hour videos, but generally speaking, you want to have 30-second videos, which are what you probably see if you have a Facebook account or you ever go on Instagram or TikTok. Those are the typical videos you see there. They're very quick, they're usually funny, they can be absolutely drop dead gorgeous, but that's how today's parent gets a lot of their information. So if you don't know how to do that, find a grandchild or find a child or find a teenager in your high school who knows how to do it, or find a 20-year-old daughter or son who knows how to do it, or go to your local art school and take a course in how to create these things. This is well worth your time. And, you definitely can pay someone to do it. I wish I could tell you where to find these people, except they're probably going to be under 30. They're kids that have grown up with this technology, and they just have an instinct of how to communicate with people their own age or a little older. Next, don't use Montessori jargon. Don't try to sound smart. Speak simple, be clear, tell a story. People don't care about your story. They are the heroes of their story. Focus on how you're going to help them, how you're going to help someone they love, their child, their grandchild. You want to use really clear language. You want to be parent friendly. Talk. I mean, literally, if you've got ChatGPT, literally speak into it and say, this is who we are. This is what our school is all about. Go to our website, check it out. Now, tell our story in 30-second script so that a 5-year-old would understand it. That's the way to do it. Make it extremely simple. On your web pages and in any ad you've got or any landing page, have a big button. Schedule a tour. Do it today. Come see how good a school can be. You're going to love it here. I mean, there's so many different ways to tell the message. Again, whether you're Montessori or monastery, it doesn't matter. We're all offering something special. Love us for who we are. Let's find the perfect match, which, by the way, is the name of one of my books for school leaders. Finding the perfect match, recruit and retain your ideal enrollment. Let parents do the talking instead of your admissions director doing the talking. You want to find parents who love your school, who are willing to be out there and be outrageous, and who are willing to be ambassadors. Now, what you do is you put out an email and you say, we're looking for 10 really special families from our school who are willing to be ambassadors of the school. And you explain to them that there are different levels of ambassador, from I'm willing to receive phone calls from parents who want to talk to an existing parent or a past parent, to people who are willing to go out into the community and the Rotary Club and things like that and talk about how much they love your school, who often have literature for your school or a card for your school in their pocket, or people who just agree to be part of the admissions team. For example, someone would go out and let's say, Teresa, you've applied to my school, and they send you an email. Hi, I'm Tim Selden. I've got a 4-year-old at Aardvark Academy. Teresa, if you'd like to talk to someone who really knows on the inside what it's like, I'm here for you, my friend. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you by Zoom, or I'd love to get together for a cup of coffee. Again, every school has its own culture, but this is a really good strategy. Another thing that some schools do is they have a yard sign. You probably have seen them, maybe from public schools. It's typically a proud parent of a local public school kid. Um, so in this case, we'd say something like a proud grandparent of a Calvert School graduate, QR code, learn more, come see how good a school can be. The QR code is for anyone who's a dinosaur. You take your smartphone camera, you point it at the QR code. That in turn takes you to a URL, to a website, and it takes you to a specific page. It's a lot easier than saying, go to www.montessori.org. Another thing you can do is send families handwritten notes. I mean, in this stage of emails and texts, handwritten notes that go home either with a kid or through the mail are surprising. People don't expect to see that anymore, and they like it, especially if you've got good handwriting. Another thing you could do is bring a friend afternoons. Come see our school. Please, Teresa, Clint, come. On Friday, we're going to have coffee and conversation at Aardvark Academy. Find a friend and bring them. We'd love to see you there. So that kind of thing can be different from a standard special Saturday or evening open house or whatever, because they actually are seeing school in session and they're coming with a friend. Now, again, you may say, None of my parents have any time to take off work and do that. On the other hand, it only takes one or two. And that's how we build our enrollment, whether you have 100 kids or whether you have 1,000 kids. It's always done one kid at a time. So you want to meet families where they already are. So, for example, this is a standard Montessori trick, and it works well for other kinds of schools. Do a Montessori pop up. In other words, you literally bring a bunch of kids, bring your materials. If you're in art school, you could have little easels and smocks and berets. The kids are sitting there doing art in the middle of the public park or in the middle of a mall or whatever. But many of us have done kind of the glass walled classroom where our kids are behind a rope barrier and they're going about their Montessori day, typically 3, 4, and 5 year olds. High school kids don't like doing this. Um, and it's very impressive to parents. It really gets a lot of attention. You can, of course, go to school fairs, but this is the idea of going not only to a school fair, which I would never miss if I were you. And by the way, if your community doesn't do a school fair, consider taking the lead and organizing it. It's always done by someone like us. So you just reach out, you find a venue, maybe the biggest private school's gym, and that's okay. Or it could be a public library, it could be the mall. You find a place where you can do this and you just put out free publicity. The radio stations and newspapers are usually glad to say school choice workshop or independent school fair on the mall, Saturday, whatever. Another thing you can do is do a sidewalk chalk day. That's where you go to again to a public park. You have that beautiful chalk that we can get this colored, and you encourage the kids to create art. And you can invite kids of families that are there. Would you like to make art of your own? And the art could be just art, or it could be art that has a message. So, for example, in Montessori, we tend to really focus on grace and courtesy and kindness and acts of charity. And a lot of faith based schools do the same thing. This could be the theme of your chalk art day. You can do flash micro workshops at a coffee shop. I don't mean do it without permission, but you can usually find a local coffee shop that's willing to let you have, you know, 10 families gather around and have coffee and pastries while you're having a brief 15, 20-minute presentation about some topic that would interest parents. And that could be, what brain science tells us about early education, or how to get your kid to do what you want them to do, or why would anyone spend money to go to a private school? Or is Montessori right for you? Or is Waldorf right for you? Whatever it is. So these kinds of workshops are great. Now, by the way, you can also, of course, get on the agenda to speak at Rotary Club, Chamber of Commerce, um, Mothers Helping Mothers, the La Leche League, anything like that, where you can get access to parents. It's a great idea. You can also go around and get volunteers to go around to local pediatricians and gyms and realtors, and you put up typically a poster, use small flyer about the size of half of an 8.5 by 11 with beautifully printed information about your school. By the way, in today's world, it's got to look good. Take the time to have it professionally designed, have it tell the story in one glance. Don't load it up with text, simple messages. You're going to love it here. Come see how good a school can be. Our children are the best spokespeople for our school. This is amazing. Why didn't my mother send me to Barry School? So you got to be outrageous. You
Tim,
want to,
one thing I wanted to, I just wanted to piggyback on one of the things you said there. Well, just about being in the community. Does anybody here seen the niche.com parent surveys? I have I have my mixed feelings about niche.com in general, maybe just because of the outrageous package prices that they have. But nonetheless, um, they obviously have a tremendous amount of traffic and eyeballs from parents, and they do survey data. And they had one in 2024. And one of the things they said about community is that 73% of families said or 70% of parents and guardians said schools' presence at community events. So hosting sessions at like a local library or sponsoring an event, that was an impactful point that was influencing their decision. So 70% said presence at community events, and 73% said that presence at a school fair influenced their decision. So being off campus is an important factor in influencing that decision process, especially when, as Tim had mentioned, competition is as fierce as ever. I mean, there's some demographic things going on, across the globe in terms of birth rates, but also competition, home schools, charter schools, virtual schools, all of it. So being able to influence families at all different stages and being where they're at, and if anybody's listened to me, I'm always talking digital, and yes, digital is important, but being off campus as well is really important.
We call what you're describing, Clint, bragging rights. And it's the idea that what parents are looking for is not just that your child is loved. They're not just looking to know that the teacher knows that who their child is. They want to not only know their child is safe, and a lot of parents are going to schools like ours because they're afraid of school shootings, they're afraid of bullying, they're afraid of drugs, whatever they perceive that the neighborhood schools do that make them nervous. That's one reason why some families, not all families, but many of the families that come to private schools are not only looking for a better education, they're looking for a better social, emotional experience for their children. They want their kids to have friends that they're not afraid of. They want their kids to have friends. They don't want their kid to be bullied. The other thing they want is a community of like minded parents, and they want to be proud of their school. And what Clint is describing, if your school sponsors a national Montessori conference, if your school is constantly doing events, whether it's participating in the city holiday fairs or community services, whatever, things that really in your local culture have high street credibility, it gives them a sense of pride. The other thing you've got to remember, especially for those of us who are Montessori educators, but I suspect this is true of the rest of us who are not Montessori educators. Parents are always saying, don't you want your kid to go to college? Are you so filthy rich you can afford to go to Snate Academy? What's wrong with the local public schools? Why don't you? I'm an American. I support our neighborhood schools. That is a big part of the American parent culture. So if our families are coming to us, obviously there's a reason why they choose to do it. It may not be very rational, it may be gut instinct, but you can bet that people around them are putting pressure on them to change their mind. And especially if you run programs that start with very young children, the older they get, the more pressure their neighbors, their family, their friends are going to put on them to get with the program and get into the local schools because that's where the kids that they're going to know for the rest of their lives live. The antidote to that is create strong, powerful community for the children and for the parents. If you do that really well, and the best private schools do it really well, that really is how we build our enrollment and keep it. We lose our enrollment when parents feel I'm not wealthy enough to keep paying this kind of tuition. I've got to go to the public schools sooner or later. Maybe this is the year. So you got to have something to counteract that. And basically, it's the kids' experience and it's the parents' experience. And part of that is what Clint mentioned, which is not something that happens on your campus, it's something that happens in the local community. And it's all important. It's you're creating cross pressure to the pressure that's trying to drag parents out of our schools. So be bold and memorable. One example, and these are just some random examples from the report. Little scientists having a parade. They're walking around, doing a parade through town of their science fair. And I'm not suggesting they have the entire science fair displays, But basically, it could be it's just a picture of your kids dressed up, little, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 year olds looking like they're scientists with lab coats and the safety goggles and all of that. Um, Kathy Leach used to run a school called the Renaissance School in Fort Myer. And in her school, one of the things they did every day was cooking. So we got the kids little chef's toques and the aprons, and they had lots and lots of things showing how the little kids were learning to cook properly. Same thing with art. They had berets and they had the proper art school easels. And instead of doing it on paper, they did their artwork on canvas boards. And they learned to use acrylics and oil paints. It was just beautiful. These are gimmicks to create bragging rights, high prestige for a school. Another thing you could do is you could go out to a corner. I don't know where this corner would be, but it could be the corner in front of the school, and you could either run a cafe. For example, at our school, we always had a morning cafe, and they would sell croissants and espresso and things like that. But you could also go to a corner and just have free coffee with a great big banner, Aardvark Academy enrolling now for next year. We just have few spaces for really special kids. Aardvark Academy for the uniquely gifted child. And by the way, some of you are Montessori are hearing the word gifted and you're cringing. And I would suggest to you that the word gifted is exactly what you want to say if you're a non-traditional school. Not because we want to go the way of traditional schools, but we sometimes fail to realize that children are capable of amazing things. They are all uniquely gifted. And so the words are not intended to suggest high pressure, highly competitive, rigorous, that whole, endless hours of homework. It's intended to suggest we are teaching kids to think outside of the box, to think deeply. We are producing the leaders of tomorrow. Another thing on this slide is the Give Back Day. This is just the idea of a toy swap or clothing swap. Again, these are gimmicks. They'll work for some schools, especially if you're in an area where that kind of thing is would go over well. You got to test your culture. Brainstorm with your people. Create a committee to think about this stuff. You want to make any event you have worth attending. Most of us have the experience that at the beginning of the year, our teachers have a back to school night. That's the one night of the year, other than maybe your holiday event where the kids are performing, where you get more than 5 parents showing up. We always say the same 5 families show up time and time again. You want to make your events, every event, worth attending. Basic rules. One, free childcare. Critical. If you don't make it convenient and free, parents aren't going to come out. There are much better things that they would like to do, like watch Downton Abbey for the 25th time, rather than come out at night in the rain to see your school and sit on those little tiny chairs under those fluorescent lights, listening to your teacher drone on and on and on. That's not what they have in mind. So maybe you're going to serve cocktails. We can't do that anymore, can we? Maybe you're going to serve really good food. Whatever you're going to do, it's got to be over the top. You don't have to spend a lot of money. For example, one of the companies that I advise is a software company called Illumine. An interesting company. If you have a preschool program, and it's not Montessori, you might want to look at them. They are definitely going to be a pro care killer coming out of India. They're using AI in a way that I'm just shocked at how well they do it. They held an event for a group of childcare centers in Florida, and they went to one of the really better catering places, and they did a spread that was amazing. I think they spent a couple of $1,000 for the day to give these people lunch and coffee and snack. Sandwich, I think it was really probably just Panera, but it was way beyond what most people do. And people raved about it. Again, be outrageous. Don't do the same old, same old. Breakfast with Montessori, coffee and conversation, Montessori mornings where the families come into your school. Again, this could be any school. Parent education nights and tours open to the public. parent education nights where they're down on the floor. A lot of Montessori schools do what we would call mommy and me or people nights or come, let the children be your guide. Those kinds of things are good strategies. I don't care what kind of school you are. Again, not every parent will come out because they really don't want to do it. So you got to figure out how to do it. By the way, the way to get people to do it is telephone trees. Now think about this. If Clint calls me up and says, "Hey, Tim, you know that tomorrow night is the parent night at Aardvark Academy. You're going to be there, right?" It is, you just got communicated with. You may not go, but the odds of you attending are much greater. So setting up a telephone chain where your parent ambassadors or room parents call, not email. How many emails do you get a day? 500, 1,000? Email doesn't cut it. Text is better than email. But a phone call, assuming they answer the phone or listen to their voicemail, tends to really work best. Person to person contact works. You want to build your urgency without gimmicks. So, for example, you could, if you want, waive the application fee, which is probably a discount of $150 for a lot of our schools. I would not give them a free month of school or a free week of school or 10% discount, but you can do that. Um, you can do a thank you for parents who are helping you, as opposed to giving them a break on their tuition. Again, you could motivate people, like if you bring in a friend, we'll give you a $100 gift card. On the other hand, thank you really works well. People really appreciate a sincere thanks. They also appreciate money. So again, you got to figure out what's right for you. So you want to organize a campaign because listening to ideas like this, they're great. It's gonna go in one ear and out the other. This takes planning. This takes a deliberate, intentional, organized plan. And it doesn't all have to be done by one person. You got to delegate, you got to recruit, you got to train, you got to remind people, they got to have a written plan, they got to know what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. You got to give people a sense of satisfaction that we got it done. And ideally, you don't just do this once a year. You do this on some kind of regular basis because, again, it takes multiple efforts to move the needle. So the first thing you want to do is organize your plan. That's your first month. So if you can start tomorrow if you come up with a good idea from the roadmap that you're going to get from Clint. But probably you want to organize your plan in the first month. And you're going to follow that plan for the next 10 years. And every year you're going to, as you get to May, you want to sit down with your volunteers and say what worked really well, what fell flat, what didn't get any takers. In other words, do the stuff that works well more often and try to not repeat the stuff that didn't work well and keep your mind open about new and better things that you might try. The second thing is having planned out what you're going to do and organize your volunteers, go out and start doing it. Go loud and go local. And then 60 days in, you want to look at how well it's working and modify if you need to, adjust to come up with what's next. So you want to track your progress. So you want to track three numbers. For example, if you hold an event, how many tours does it lead to? How many people attend? How many people actually come to visit the campus? Then you want to look at people that come to visit the campus, a tour. How many of your tours lead to an application? The third metric you want to look at is how many applications lead to enrollment. Now, it could be you didn't take them, which should suggest you're not appropriately communicating who you are and who would love your school to the right people. It could be that you People are looking at your school after they apply and they're deciding to do something different. The bottom line is you want to look at those metrics and see what's happening. Now, ideally, you want to have at least half of all the people who come to an event book tours, and half of the people that book tours apply to your school. And of course, half of your people who apply to your school at least get in, unless you have such a volume of applications that, 1 in 100 actually gets offered admission. Probably for a lot of us, that's not going to be the way it is. So don't forget about retention. It is much easier to resell an existing family than it is to create a relationship with a brand new family who doesn't even know your name. So being very careful to keep your finger on the pulse of the satisfaction of your current families is really important. In a lot of the schools that we consult with, they just do a once a year survey, if they even think of that. That is nowhere near enough. You want to be doing contact with your families every month. Surveys are fine, but they're really impersonal. A lot of people, frankly, are just aggravated with surveys and they just give everyone a 10. Just go away and leave me alone. Or if they're really angry, yeah, they'll say something nasty, but usually it's just too much aggravation. You want to do what I call charretting. You want to be talking to people, holding open forums, asking them, get 15, 20 families. How are things going? What's working? What's not working? Tell us how we're doing. What would make it better at our school? What kind of family loves our school? What are we failing to see? And pay attention to what these people are saying. Record it, transcribe it, analyze it. And if you don't know how to transcribe it, there are all kinds of websites these days, software, that will take an audio recording and turn it into notes for you. And that can be anything from a Plod digital recorder, which is a little device you can buy, to your laptop can do audio recording. And there are lots of websites like Descript or Designer that will take an audio and turn it into text, and then you feed it into AI, and the AI tells you, okay, this is what was said. They've cleaned up the transcript. This is the key takeaways you should remember. And you want to invest in training your staff. I can't tell you how important it is your parents learn how to talk to parents. One, how to deal with aggressive parents, because parents are becoming more aggressive than ever. How to deal with disappointed parents, how to deal with worried parents, how to deal with the parent who's trying to suck up to your teachers so that you'll give their kids great grades or that you'll make sure their kid is always taken good care of. There are all kinds of things that go on between parents and teachers. And we want to make sure that our teachers have razor sharp skills to communicate really well. So to put it all together, we want to have a way of telling our story really, really authentically. Who are we? We don't want to make false promises. We want to be clear and accurate of who we are and what does a parent really want to hear. Remember, they don't care about your story. They don't care that my mother founded the Barry School and it's 98 years old. I mean, they kind of vaguely know it, but that's not why they're going to go to that school. They go to that school because it's convenient, because they like the look of it, because their sister goes there. Who knows why they're going to go there? But they really care about their story. It's true for all of us. How is your school going to make their life better as a parent? So having a great story told in a way that they can hear it, told in a way that is imaginative, that entertains them, will lead to thriving enrollment. You've got to entertain your parents. You want to pair digital targeting with unique in-person experiences. It's really important. I mean, you can't sell a parent on a school just with multimedia advertising. They got to come, they got to breathe the air, they got to press the flesh. So you got to really have a great experience. And you want to follow up on every single lead really fast. Answer the phone within 3 rings. If you do that, you're going to convert more people into members of your community. Now, here's a simple checklist. You want to look at your website, and you probably want to have someone like Clit do a professional analysis of your website. A lot of people are real cocky about their website. They think it's great. But according to the marketing rules, very few of us, including myself at the Montessori Foundation, are doing it as well as we should. One of the things you want to have is a great big button that says schedule a tour, call us today, whatever is the call to action. Then go out and recruit 5 to 10 parent ambassadors. Train them, be sure they know what they're signing up for. Don't just get their name on a list. Third, schedule 2 pop-ups, 2 short duration events in the next 30 days to get people onto your campus. Come have a Montessori morning. Come see Montessori kids at work. The kids are the best spokespeople. Plan a breakfast with Montessori or Montessori for a morning. And if you're not a Montessori school, insert your school. Come see how great a Catholic education can be. Do a chalk art festival, a coffee corner, a little scientist parade, a community swap. Do some kind of event. Go out with your ambassadors or your staff and visit local businesses and real retailers. Let them know about your school. Give them literature. Most dentist offices, so forth, have a literature rack of some kind. See if you can get them to do it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. If you don't ask, you're not going to succeed. Pay attention to how well whatever you're doing is working. Follow up and every single lead right away. I mean, here it says the same day. I would say follow up on the spot if you can. And if you can't do it on the spot, follow up as fast as you can. You ever text or call me, you will normally hear from me at the worst within an hour, unless I'm doing an all-day workshop for a school. And even if I'm busy, I will text back and I'll say something like, Jody, I wish I see you called. I'm tied up today. I'm working with Aardvark Academy. I'll get back to you later today. Is that okay? That's how we do it. Run your school like a Montessori classroom and keep investing in your staff. Keep investing in your parents. They are your most powerful tool you've got. So the key takeaway, Montessori schools, monastery schools, Catholic schools, whatever kind of school, we don't need a big budget. We need creativity, we need consistency, and we need a sense of humor, and we need a sense of heart. We've got to enchant people. So pick 2 tactics that you're going to implement this week. Think about what that would be. And share success stories back with the community. So if you come to this every week, or you show up next week or 3 weeks from now, unmute or put it in the chat and tell us, okay, I did what you said, and this is what worked, or this is what happened. It was a flop. You know what you're talking about, Tim. Let us know what happens, because we care. Bottom line is our schools are precious. We need to have each other's backs. We need to work together. So now it's your turn. Anyone want to unmute and chime in with your questions or your comments or your stories?
So I'll mention a couple things real quick, Tim, just to again piggyback on a few things you said. The one thing I love is about telling the story. If anybody wants to dig deeper into that, because there are proven frameworks for how to tell your story. The most popular one, and we actually when we do website design for schools that build websites, this is actually the structure that we use, which is called if anybody's ever heard of Story Brand by Donald Miller. I'm going to put that in the chat. Um, he wrote the book years ago. He actually came out with a 2.0 version. I think it's incorporating AI now. But Story Brand by Donald Miller, really great content in terms of how to tell your story and the psychological framework about telling the story from the perspective of, you are not the hero, you are the guide. Your parents are the hero, and how to tell that. And that's like how every great story was ever written, and how you can tell your own story. So Story Brand's a great one. Yep, Teresa, awesome. Glad you like it. That's a great one. And then let me throw some other data out for you again. I'm going to go back to Niche's parent survey because I think it gives us just some perspective about what parents are looking for. And again, every school is unique. You should look at your own survey data. But I get asked the question a lot, like, how do we get families like in middle school or elementary school, maybe when there's not the normal feeder grades, where you're typically maybe trying to get families to switch. So as you're thinking about your messaging, what was this number here? Hold on, let me get this. 65% of families cited academics as their reason for switching schools. So, yes, they're looking at athletics. Yes, they're looking at class sizes. Yes, they're looking at safety and cost and these things. But ultimately, they are also looking at academics. And now that might apply more for, potentially upper, more like your upper schools potentially. But that's just from their data. So, at least highlighting your academics is still very important. Um, and one other piece of information that I found was extremely important to know in terms of if you want to attract families and you're trying to fill more seats, make sure you're holding events, even virtual events. So, what is this data here? Let me see here. Hold on. Competition, event experience. Here we go. 38% of parents reported attending a school event as their first step in the process. So that's above everything else. Submitting inquiry forms, calling the school. They want to come to an event. Helen, there for perspective parents. So prospective parent events. So think about open houses, info tours, and 98% of parents said school visits influenced their decision. 74% said virtual tours are influential. So I know, obviously, ever since COVID, we always wanted to get back on campus, which you should. I mean, that you should get them on campus. But to complement your campus visits, doing virtual tours also can just help maximize your reach, maximize the amount of people that you can engage and get your information. Because maybe they, for whatever reason, they can't attend your event. Maybe they skip it, whatever. You never hear from them again. But if they could sit at home 7 o'clock at night, listen to a 30-minute Zoom conversation with the head of school and teachers and whoever you want to bring on there, that's just another great experience. So again, as we're thinking about all of these, when it comes to marketing, especially, there always feels like there's a million things we can do. But having these in the back of your mind can be really helpful in determining where to focus your efforts. So there was a lot of numbers thrown at you, but just wanted to give you some, let you know what the data is telling us.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll tell you,
Oh.
this is the perfect, oh, sorry.
Hi, Jody.
Sorry. You good? All right. The perfect timing for this. I have a parent ambassador meeting on Thursday. Some of the moms who are in marketing and data are presenting a survey that they're going to do, just a 5 simple question survey for our families. And we're out for a bunch of different fall events in the community. And I'm just trying to jump on as many opportunities as I can. We draw from a pretty big area in Chicago. We're not just like a neighborhood school, which would make it nice and simple that you always go to your own neighborhood events. We're doing farmers markets in 3 or 4 different neighborhoods, art fairs in different neighborhoods. I like the idea though of just like setting up somewhere and passing out kind of a guerrilla marketing attempt. I did that this summer. We have a music and movement program that I lead on Friday mornings. And this year we made it free just to get people in the door because it's always been like $20 and I don't know that that's holding people off from coming in for it, but free is just, I'm already here, I'm already on staff. I just run it. So I every summer go to like 4 different Chicago Park District parks, play lots around here. I do not tell them that I'm coming because I don't want to have to mess with a permit with the park district. But we do advertise them all over the place that we'll be here and there and the other place. And I have gotten several good leads from those this summer. So guerrilla marketing, I think,
That's
does work.
great. Absolutely. Thanks, Jody. Well, really helps if we could do a quick poll as to what school you're with. Jody, tell us again what school you're with.
It's called Immaculate Conception St. Joseph School in Old Town in Chicago. So we're right kind of in the shadow of the city on the near north side. We're not in a neighborhood with a lot of Victorian homes like a lot of our competitors are, nor are we like right down in the loop like a couple of our other competitors are. We're kind of just right in a great sweet spot that's convenient for people that work downtown. Unfortunately, COVID and everything else, our downtown has been pretty much a ghost town for a long time. It's coming back though. Yeah, and we're pre-K through 8th grade.
Thanks. Diana, where are you at?
Yeah, I am with Aspen Academy. We're in Greenwood Village, which is south of Denver, like 25 minutes or so from downtown Denver. We are preschool through 8. We just opened our preschool. We used to be pre-K through 8. And I was just gonna say that everything resonated a lot because that's kind of been our approach, truly, with our marketing and our mission department. One of the roadblocks, maybe is not the right term, but that we're facing is getting the buy-in from other key people in the school, like you said, also other like the EMA survey showing how our parents want to meet our teachers, want to meet the academic dean, etc. But of course, their priority is to teach or to observe the teachers or to do, and so we've tried to do some educational opportunities in sharing why this is important, why is everyone on the enrollment team not asking you to review applications, not asking you to pick up the phone and answer it to an inquiry, but asking you to, every now and then be available for some of the events that we do. And so that has been, there are some teachers or colleagues who have either more time or are more excited about these type of opportunities who jump in, and there are others who not really. And so also that balance of not asking always the same people, and then so that's been our, I think, hardest piece, so that it's not always parent ambassadors or the admissions team showing up at these places. And
Diana, I really appreciate what you've been saying because that makes a great workshop for us as well. The idea of how do you get all of the school, from the head of the school to the board, to the teachers, the assistants, the chefs in the kitchen, whatever you've got, to understand we're all on the admissions team. Everyone has a stake in this. And there is a role that we can all play. Many people resent the idea that we spend money on marketing or that we have an admissions office. Everyone ought to come to our school and we just let them in, first come, first serve. And it just doesn't work that way. So maybe that'll be next week's topic, Clint. I know everyone has to go, and I know Clint and I have an appointment we're supposed to go to. Margot, any last words from you? You're muted.
There we go.
friend.
Yes, now I unmuted. My apologies. I would just encourage everybody to really be very positive about attacking all of this. It is all doable, depending on where you are and what it is that you particularly need for your school. But one of the best things that I can advise is that you be very, very positive. You are the best Montessori school in the area. You are the best Catholic school. You are the best this. And don't let anybody take that away from you. Because if you don't say it, no one else really will. And that's the same message you need to give to your staff and to your parents. And of course, it really helps if you follow it up with wonderful teaching in your school. But it's that very positive sense. And I really prefer the good old telephone. I think AI is wonderful. I think having to set things up through a website for tours and that kind of stuff, but there isn't anything that beats picking up that phone, whether they're calling you or you're calling them, and making that personal connection. Because not everybody who calls is going to be appropriate for your school. And if you can help them find perhaps other places that they should be looking at rather than you, it'll save you time in the long run. And you weed out parents who, for whatever reasons, and there are a myriad of them, may not be appropriate for your school, or your school's just not appropriate for where their child is. So be positive and pick up the phone.
Margo, thank you. I paid you for that. That was beautiful.
Yes, anytime.
Love everyone. So we'll see you next week. And remember, we do another one of these on Thursdays. And I think Clint is leading this Thursday. And the topic is basically website analysis to try to see how can you improve your website. Again, watch for the handout and the link that's going to come every week. I normally give you the PDF of my slideshow, and I give you the whatever I have written that has to do with the topic. And I think this week's handout may be especially valuable. We'll see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, Margot.